Let's get into it, shall we? Big freaking news today. Joe Kent, big MAGA guy, or at least was, ran for office twice. Trump got him through it to be this software-based gain, cranking my audio up. Okay, so I'm going to have to fix my audio another day, guys. Sorry. But I have people now reaching out to me to help me out. Anyways. Thanks for exposing PsyOp. You're welcome, Pam. Zach Butterfield, what's up, man? So Kent today put his resignation, but he did it in a way for the whole world to see his letter. And this is what's interesting. We're going to read this because this is actually extremely important, guys, because this is I'm watching this dupe, in my opinion, people that I trust, which is crazy because it's so bad. Am I noisy again? God, you guys, you got to let me know how bad the audio is, okay? Just be honest with me. So Joe writes this letter, which is crazy, all right? He says, after much reflection, I've decided to resign from my position as Director of National Counterterrorism Center. I can't in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. It posed no imminent threat to our nation. It's clear we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Okay, now that's a crazy thing to say. All right, that he just basically called out Trump and said Trump's controlled by Israel. This is the director of the counterterrorism unit. This guy is highly respected, especially by veterans. I think he did 11 tours in Iraq, Afghanistan, Green Beret. I mean, this is about as perfect. If you could create a MAGA symbol in a lab, this is the guy you'd want. All right. He checks all the boxes. For like the military part, the part of like has at least appeared to be loyal the last 4 years. Trump put him in charge of counterterrorism. He checks all the boxes. And so for this guy to come out and call Trump owned by Israel and call out the Iran war, it's massive. And it's got the whole internet in an uproar. This is one of those things that doesn't just live on X. This one is spreading wider. It even made top Google trends today. So the regular people are Googling his name. This has got major political ramifications. This is like the big moment for the Israel Tards, the Groypers, all of them to be like, told you so. We're right. This is the win for us. We did it. We proved it to you guys. Boom. All the influencers I've been calling out, everything, they're lining up behind this. This is like, they are in for it. Okay. He reads the rest, or he writes the rest right here. It says, I support the values and the foreign policies you campaigned on in 2016, 2020, 24, which you enacted in your first term until June of 2025. That's when we bombed Iran last year. You understood the way in the Middle East, what the wars in the Middle East were a trap that robbed America, the precious lives of our patriots, depleted the wealth and prosperity of our nation. And he goes on to say, in your first administration, you understood better. And then early in this administration, high-ranking Israeli officials and influential members of the American media deployed a misinformation campaign that wholly undermined your America First platform and sowed pro-war sentiments to encourage a war with Iran, this echo chamber. My God, you could not. Oh, man. I got so much to say. I have so much to freaking say here. So, before I get into, man, I'm fired up over this. Fired up, okay? Because there is so much in here that is just word for word of what all the grifters have been saying. And listen, even if you respect Joe Kent and you agree with him on this, okay, I'm not going to convince you otherwise. You've got in your head, he's a war hero, all that. That's fine. But The grifters, we have proven, I mean, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I've presented evidence after evidence for months now, backing up why we cannot trust these people. And I honestly, I've seen so much. I don't think there's any other explanation except for they're running the craziest deep operation, double agent campaign I've ever seen. So, but here's the point. Those people we know for sure are compromised in one way, shape, or form, or grifting in one way, shape, or form. I just can't see any other way they're not. After all the time and research we've done on them and exposing them. But this guy, it's tougher, except for he literally just said what they are saying word for word. And here's some of the tells. The Iran war. What does he say? He doesn't say Iran's not a threat. He uses the word imminent threat. He qualifies it. He qualifies it because he has to. He's basically, in order to not be a full-on liar. Imminent threat, my friends, is an opinion. That's all it is. The difference between threat and imminent threat is opinion. One person's imminent threat is another person's, nah, they're good. That's all that is. So he's basically admitting his opinion is different here. That because there's no way to officially say something's imminent or not imminent. That's just a fact. So that's one of the key words right here. The other key words he says are the America First movement. Now, you notice he didn't say MAGA. What was I literally telling you guys just last night? America First is their code word. It's their code word for like, we're better than MAGA. We are the real MAGA. That's what they always use. He doesn't say MAGA in here. He doesn't say MAGA agenda, which is what Trump uses. He says America First. And there's nothing wrong with America First, by the way. We were saying it first, but I've told you guys and showed you how that's one of their codes to try to dupe people into their side. Echo chamber, that's the next one. This is what Rich Barris and all of them have been saying. Oh, it's Trump's consultants have gone bad. They're leading him astray because they can't attack Trump directly. So it has to be it has to be his consultants are bad. So that's the echo chamber. Trump no longer listens to the people. He never gets out to the people anymore. It's an echo chamber. It's his consultants. Oh my God. Trump is actually a good person because they have to say that. Otherwise, their entire audiences would leave. No, they have to act as if they're trying to rescue Donald Trump. That's the other thing we've been talking about. And by the way, if you guys have been watching this show, you should be trained to see all this stuff by now because I've been showing you nonstop. This is exactly what they say. And then the other part is where is it? Oh, it's the Israelis, okay, who are applying a misinformation campaign against you. In other words, you, my friend, you, Mr. Donald Trump, have fallen for an Israeli psyop. And you see what he's doing? He's projecting the psyop onto Donald Trump because we couldn't possibly. Now, ask yourself this, okay? Not only do I have all kinds of problems with this letter, just like it sounds like a tantrum. I can't believe some people are out there being like, this is the honorable way to go. People I respect. I'm not even going to say their names because I agree with these people on so many things and they've never shown any way of grifting or anything like that. I've never seen any warning signs from them. I legitimately think they're ex-military, so they just respect this guy so much. They're giving him the benefit of the doubt. But one guy I was listening to today was just like, dude, they were like, he was honorable in how he did this. I'm like, no, how is this honorable? You're a soldier. Your country's at war, and you just published a letter to your commander-in-chief in front of the entire world that basically says he is being psyoped. He is being controlled by another nation. How is that honorable? There's no honor in that at all. Listen, if this was about honor, if this guy legitimately just had a beef with Trump, if he truly trusted Trump, truly believed in him, he would have raised all this hell, and then he would have gone to Trump quietly and submitted his resignation, which still would have been a big news story, but this would not have come out. My friends, this is on purpose. This is being projected out there on purpose to get people to fall for the idea that Donald Trump is controlled by Israel. All of this, okay? Absolutely wild. So that's the letter itself. All right. And he writes, after much reflection, I've decided to resign. Can't in good conscience support. That's all fine. But why do you have to call your commander-in-chief basically a moron? Okay. Or basically that he's betrayed us. So wild. That's the letter itself. Okay. Now you can, again, I see it my way. Some of you might disagree. There's plenty of people out there who disagree, but let me tell you show you the past. How about we go look at, well, first of all, let's do this first. Let's look at how Trump responded. So Trump, hearing about Joe, in today's, he's meeting with the Irish president, which is awesome on St. Patrick's Day, by the way. This man just understands showmanship. But listen to what he had to say.
Today, he said he can't support your conflict with Iran. What's your reaction to that? And did you?
Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. I didn't know him well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was. The question is whether or not.
You see what Trump did right there? It was really smart. So not only does he compliments him by saying he's a nice guy, but then he completely destroys him by saying he's weak. And not only that, he uses Joe's words, and instead of throwing in the imminent part, Trump just says, what, this guy thought Iran's not a threat? Which immediately everybody's like, yeah, that is crazy to say. As usual, Trump is the master. But how about we go look at some of what Joe Kent said in the past. In fact, Trump is sharing with us some of Joe Kent's own words with us tonight. Here's Joe Kent in 2020. To Mr. Donald Trump, this is January 8th, 2020, so 6 years ago. We should not sit and wait for the next attack. Wipe Iran's ballistic capability out and get our troops out of Iraq. They're our only targets now. Iran is our only targets now. Interesting. That's funny. He sure seemed like he was really, really right to go after Iran back then. That's interesting, Mr. Kent. Here's the actual tweet. He left it up still. We should not sit out and wait. This is January 7th. So he posted it twice, once on Truth, once here on X, which he left up. You would think, if you're gonna make a big thing about attacking Donald Trump and proving Iran's not a big deal and Trump's owned by Israel, you would think that you should go back and delete your tweets that kind of prove you wrong. You cell phone yourself. You left them up there. Maybe he wasn't smart enough to be national security counterterrorism director, was he? But that's not all. He's got some more. How about this? Joe Kent in September 25th, 2024, just a year and a half ago. Iran has been after Trump since January of 2020 after he ordered the targeted killing of the terrorist Qasem Soleimani. This isn't a new threat. Secret Service consistently failing to secure Trump is new. Figure out why these threats are happening. But Iran's been after Trump since January 2020? Well, sir, that's the leader of our country. That is one way or the other. He was either a former president or a president during this entire time, those last 6 years. Is that not a reason to go to war if Iran would assassinate this man? I would think that as Americans, I think every single person here would support going to war if a president was killed. I don't know. How about we ask the chat on this one? Because, what do I know? Should we go to war with a country if they kill our president? I don't know. You guys tell me what you think on that one. Maybe it's 50-50 out there. I don't know. I say I feel pretty strongly about that. And I'm guessing Mr. Joe Kent would too. If Iran assassinated our president, I think that's a threat. But hey, it's also not a new threat. So there's that. But that's your own words, Mr. Joe Kent. How about this one? Oh, definitely. This is in response. Trump's restraint shows he wants to deal with Iran. His red line is American loss of life or nuke development. Definitely I don't know who posted this, is deleted, but definitely I personally think we should have crushed their ballistic and nuke capabilities, but Trump has a plan. He's earned the confidence of any clear-eyed observer. Interesting. So Mr. Joe Kent, you thought we should crush their ballistic and nuke capabilities before President Trump did by about 6 years. Interesting. Why the change of heart all of a sudden? Is it because maybe it's time to go do the influencer circuit? Maybe somebody's offering you a contract. Maybe somebody has bought you off. I don't know. It's a little funny that you used to think there much before Mr. President Trump thought that. I just think that's interesting. I don't know. Call me silly. Call me stupid. But that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Here's PDB sharing it because this is going around, but saying that Iran wasn't an imminent threat and resigning because of it, but posting this in the past is wild. What am I missing? What the F is going on in the world? I don't know, PD. But yeah, we seem to have a lot of examples of Joe Kent really wanting to fight with Iran and saying we haven't been tough enough on Iran. But I don't know, kind of weird stuff, but we should keep going on. Joe Kent this is back in 2021, trying to get Nick Fuentes up there. What? Here's Joe Kent for Washington. It's liberty versus tyranny. Many are glad their political rivals are targeted by the state and big tech. They hate Trump, Nick Fuentes, and MAGA. So Fuentes in the same arena as Trump and MAGA. I don't know. That doesn't seem like this is a good judge of character. Listen, this guy, this is unbelievable what's coming out about this guy. If you're going to play a game, if you're going to play stupid games, you're going to get stupid prizes. Well, if you're going to play the political game now, in the past, you could come out with something like this. And just based on your reputation, just based on what you've said in public recently, you could have gotten away with it for days. People would have fallen for it. And the only people who might have debunked you would be maybe some independent newspapers, because who was doing all that research, right? And then very few people would have read it. It's very hard, but friends, we live in the age of X now. In the age of X, you get out there, you say something, you go after the leader of a movement, you try to perpetuate the psyop that's been going on, and you're going to get roasted if you have anything in your past. And I think Joe Kent's learning that today, as there's more. Oh, there's more. Last year, Mr. Joe Kent was part of the Signalgate chat, where the head of the Atlantic magazine, which is very anti-Trump, hardcore liberal rag magazine, somehow got into the Signal chat with Tulsi Gabbard, JD Vance, so on and so forth, talking about the strikes on Iran and the strikes on the Houthis, basically borderline classified information that this guy Jeffrey Tucker was just sitting there getting. Well, the question always was, who let him in? And most people thought it was Mike Waltz, because Mike Waltz was National Security Director and National Security Advisor, and he got demoted afterwards. And Rubio stepped into his role. Mike Waltz moved on to be, I believe, an ambassador. But Joe Kent was also in that chat. It makes you wonder. Let's keep going. Here's Tulsi Gabbard, with all this going on, has responded for the first time in a while. Says, Trump was overwhelmingly elected by the American people to be our president, commander-in-chief. As commander-in-chief, he's responsible for determining what is and what is not an imminent threat. Do you hear that? Joe Kent, being a soldier, someone who's lived this life for a long time, honorable man when he served, did lots of good things, by all means a war hero, would know this, that it's not up to him to decide whether or not the threat is imminent. He is serving at the pleasure of the president. He got there because of Trump. Again, you speak these things behind the scenes, or at least wait until you've been out of the administration more than a day, more than an hour, and then go do your stuff from the outside in. But instead, the day on the way out, just blast Trump for being controlled by Israel and that there was no imminent threat. But that's not how it works. Again, imminent is a decision. It's an opinion. And ultimately, that opinion resides with the president. You respect that opinion, whether you like it or not, when you're serving your commander-in-chief. And whether or not to take action he deems necessary to protect the safety and security of our troops and people in our country. Office of Director of National Intelligence responsible for helping coordinate. So here she's telling us that this is what their job is. It's not to tell President Trump he's wrong. It's just to provide the information. It's our job to be responsible to help coordinate and integrate all intelligence to provide the president, commander-in-chief with the best information to inform those decisions. After carefully reviewing all the information before him, not from Israelis, from their team, President Trump concluded the terrorist Islamist regime in Iran posed an imminent threat, and he took action based on that conclusion. And that's all you got to say. That's it. Tulsi lays it out. So why, Joe? Why do this? Ezra Cohen adds to this. As I've said a few times before, as a political appointee, if you disagree with the president, you have a duty to vigorously argue your point in private. This is why what he did is not honorable by any way, shape, or form, whether you agree with him or not, whether you think Trump is controlled by Israel or not, or we should be in Iran or not. What Joe Kent did today was completely dishonorable. Once the commander-in-chief makes his decision, salute and move out. If you can't execute the decision, you must resign and do so silently. Respect the weight of the president's responsibility given to him by the people. Don't undermine his ability to carry out his responsibility as CIC. This is, again, just a point I cannot get over. You know, one of the things that we've lost is, at least, and not everybody's lost it, but the idea of honor, the idea of loyalty. And loyalty it doesn't mean you agree, but it means you respect the leader you chose. You respect the person that you did life with. You respect the person who gave you your career after getting out of the military, who elevated you to one of the highest positions in national defense in the land. That deserves your loyalty, good sir. And for you to go out like this is insane. Now, it's one thing if it's like the Edward Snowden thing. It's one thing if you catch our president hurting American citizens on purpose. That's something else. That's a betrayal of the people. But this was fully in line with Trump's decision-making and what is given to him by the Constitution within his realm of powers in Article 2. You don't come out and criticize that as a soldier in a public way. There's no honor in that. And when there's no honor, friends, especially by somebody who should know better, that is a big tell. It's just like when Candace started going off on Charlie, off TPUSA and Erica Kirk less than 2 weeks after Charlie died. There is no honor in that, not the way it was handled. And as soon as you don't see honor, you know a person cannot be trusted, because somebody who will blast you in public is not somebody who can be trusted by anybody, as they'll turn on anyone or anything because it's always about them. What Joe Kent did today did nothing for the American people. Not even one thing positive can come out of this, except for it does help the podcast circuit, the influencer group, the grifters and shills. This is who it helped, and it helped him, because you better believe he's going to be riding some coattails now. Now, let's hear the other side of it. We heard Joe's side. Well, let's hear the other side of it. This reporter from Fox News, senior administration official, tells Fox Kent was a known leaker, and he was cut out of intelligence briefings months ago. Her source says the White House told Tulsi Gabbard he should be fired for suspected leaks, but she didn't do it. He has not been part of Iran planning discussions or briefings at all. Now, this part's actually been debunked since, but this part has actually been upheld. He wasn't in on the plan for Iran. He wasn't trusted anymore because they believed he was leaking. Intelligence officials tell Daily Wire it's true. Joe Kent wasn't part of the planning of the Iran war. But this is where the DNI part wasn't true, that she was supposed to fire him. They were monitoring them, though. They were worried about him, and he was no longer invited. So did he just resign to get ahead of his firing? Did he resign because he was no longer getting information to leaks? And so he was like, cool, I can hurt the president one more way. Since I can't leak anymore, since I'm not getting the information anymore, I can go out in a blaze of glory and take one final jab that now all the grifters can run with for the next few weeks. There's more. According to multiple sources, including press secretary, Joe Kent has not received classified briefings in months because they suspected he's been leaking. If he doesn't have access to information used to make the decision to commence Epic Fury, his statement doesn't hold much weight. Absolutely true. How could he know whether or not there was an imminent threat if he didn't even have, if he wasn't in on the information? By the way, right now in the poll, 98% of you say that killing the president is a big enough threat to go to war. So Joe Kent had assessed the threat of Iran and believed it was war-worthy, at least according to the logic of the crowd, which it's 98%. My guess is the military man would agree with you. This has brought out some of the heavies in the administration and our current government. Here's Mike Johnson calling him out. I'm not going to play the clip, but he says, I don't know where Kent is getting this information. He wasn't in those briefings. Had the president waited, we would have had mass casualties. Proposition at the end is clearly wrong. Listen, what matters in this statement is that now we've had the press secretary on record, Carolyn Leavitt. We've had Mike Johnson. And then we've had these other sources who we don't know who they were, but they've been corroborated by people on record that he wasn't in these meetings. I mean, this is important stuff. These guys are on record now. This isn't anonymous sources, bro. This isn't trust me, bro. This is the Speaker of the House and the press secretary who is the voice of Trump. She is. She's like the voice of Sauron in Return of the King. It's like you only come out when Trump wants to speak through you. That's what the press secretary's job is. Dan Bongino had some nice words for him, and I will play this clip because I like when Bongino gets feisty, and this is one of those worth sharing.
On a plaque in a facility I can't really talk about, and when you read the story there, it's a tough story to read. But you know, again, as I've said with other, the sacrifice is beyond reproach. That doesn't mean that this current opinion is any more fact-based, because it's not. I'm really sorry, Laura. I mean, I read probably a lot more intelligence than he did, because they don't have a law enforcement function, the National Counterterrorism Center. They're an analytical clearinghouse. They're valuable. However, I had access to just about everything. And how you could come to the conclusion that the Israelis did it and there was no imminent threat here? Really? What about the anti-ship ballistic missiles, the drone program, 440 kilograms of 60% enriched nuclear material, their constant death to America chance? I mean, you know, that's called evidence. In some limited circles, we call that, you know, a clue. I mean, I don't know at what point you thought this wasn't an imminent threat after you've read a lot of the stuff I read. And by the way, that's just the open source stuff we can talk about on the air. I promise you, the president, I promise you, has a bevy of material that if he could do the Men in Black thing and erase your mind tomorrow, if he told you right now, you would come to the imminent threat conclusion in a snap.
Well, a senior U.S.
So Bongino saying, basically calling him a fraudulent, that he had that Bongino had seen more information than Joe had said, but also the fact that just based on what we know, based on what they can say, based on the open source intelligence, the rest of it is classified, and President Trump's seen worse stuff. So there's that as well.